Welcome to Growing Belleville Through Community Chats, a podcast presented by the Greater Belleville Chamber of Commerce to help highlight, promote, and enlighten people, businesses, and community events in the Greater Belleville area. Here are your hosts, Stephen Sedlak and Eric Huber.
Good morning. Welcome back to another edition of Growing Belleville Through Community Chats. I am your co-host, Stephen Sedlak, along with Eric Huber. Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Doing well, Stephen. How are you?
Good. Getting through March here. Sun's out.
Yes, we are.
Today we have John Michel from Soulcial Kitchen. John, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Thanks for joining us. Like I said, if you don't mind, just kind of give yourself a little quick background so those that don't know much about you can learn a little bit more.
Sure. John and Holly Michel were the founders of Soulcial Kitchen. Prior to this, I served a long time in the military, went to the business world, still serve on boards and do those things. But bottom line, we wanted to create an organization that can demonstrate that business can be used for good, both in serving people and especially serving those who are underserved in our community.
So with Soulcial Kitchen, you guys have been there now, how many months now? 8-9 months? Is that about right?
We started building in June, opened the restaurant on Halloween.
On Halloween, okay. So, you guys have added to that as you've kind of gone along. I mean, what's kind of the mindset? You know, like I read an article that you had this idea, about 15 years ago or so, and kind of just put it on the back burner, like most people do with ideas. But you've now brought it to life. Kind of, how was the process behind that, and what was your kind of, I guess, mentality going through everything?
Sure. Well, I think we can all appreciate it's been a pretty dynamic time, right? So 15 years ago, the focus then was how do we use business to make a positive impact? I'd been finishing my doctoral studies in Seattle and had the notion of how do we take some innovative form. At the time, I didn't realize it'd be food trucks, but I had been working a lot with homeless youth and understanding that what really people want to do is they want to be seen. They want to be acknowledged as human beings, regardless of whether the circumstances are great or whether their circumstances are tough. So we created the concept of social, which is really the spirituality of service. Sat on the shelf for X amount of years, as you said, 15 years. We trademarked everything in 2006, not sure what we would do with it all. And then got involved in the restaurant industry in another restaurant that we own a couple of years ago. COVID hit, and then we really had to start looking at the nature of hospitality as we know it. What we knew is food trucks are cool. Mm-hmm. The economics are way better than a restaurant. People increasingly miss being connected and social after 2 years of hiding behind Zoom screens in our pajama bottoms.
Isn't that the truth?
And the growing need, if you think about it, food insecurity levels at the highest level since the Great Depression. So you had this confluence of things, and we said, what if we created a place where you could leverage food trucks at the core? One, to serve people, because, again, it's a good business model. A lot of people want it, but give people multiple brands. The other thing we know is no one in the same house seems to like the same food on any given night. So combine multiple brands, give every brand a food truck of its own. That's the business in the community. Create a simple token or system of exchange, so people now can leverage the food trucks as a way to make a difference for those who are hungry. So the currency of caring was born as a way for people to pay. They buy these at wholesale. We make no money. They can give to anybody they see who may be food insecure or struggling. And those food trucks then have turned into mobile feeding stations where now anyone who has one can eat anything they want for free. We call it dignified dining. That's awesome. Same time, you create a fun campus, right? You got a restaurant, food truck park. Eventually, we'll get to building the ice cream parlor, and we're working the dog park.
That was what I was going to say. I know there's a whole lot of moving parts to what you have going on, because the food trucks don't just always stay there. They will go out, correct? If somebody wants to bring them out on site. But for the most part, they are there. And then you also have, you said the restaurant you had, and then COVID hit, and you affected a lot of people. But now you have that aspect of the restaurant currently, right? The actual, brick and mortar restaurant.
We do. We have a full restaurant and bar. Yeah, and you need one mainly because, so food trucks are fun, but they also have a failure rate of 61% because a lot of them operate as little independent nodes, right? Mm-hmm. So what we're trying to do is bring discipline and structure and organization to the food truck business. So to do that, a brick and mortar, the most interesting part of that is the 2/3 of the restaurant you never see when you walk inside. It's the 1/3 that serves as a commissary to support all those food trucks. We have 5 of them now. So we're the largest food truck owner around. In most states. And then the other part is the commercial kitchen, right? So I need to leverage those two. So we use the restaurant as a basic platform in support of the food trucks, but at the same time, there's a host of people based on their demographic who, they just still like to sit down in a restaurant and connect with people and have good food. So we're trying to balance all those needs, but really get at this core of how we leverage those food trucks for an experience on campus, off campus, and use all that as a way to fill a very tangible need in the community of those who are hungry and hurting.
John, is there is there an aspect of what you guys are doing down there? Are you helping the individual food trucks with training, learning, business side of the operations? Like you said, it's a high risk, doesn't succeed a lot. So I think I saw you guys are helping a little bit more on the business aspect with those owners as well, correct?
Exactly. So though we own those particular food trucks now because we wanted to create multiple brands all represented by a food truck. We're the only ones in America that are doing that part of it. But the other part, and I'm glad you brought it up, so if we're going to systematize or operationalize the food truck business, we work with the Department of Labor and realize that of all the apprentices in America, all these apprenticeships, right, plumbing, electrical, and all these other things, no one had ever created a food truck apprentice program. So we created the first one through the Department of Labor. The initial cohort is going through now. So everyone who works for Soulcial Kitchen is enrolled in the food truck apprentice program, which means they are getting credit that actually stays with them as a full certification for life that the DOL registers. At the end of, and at the graduation of our first cohort in 10 months, the DOL intends to package our program and export it to all 50 states.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right there in good old Swansea, right in our backyard in Belleville.
Love it.
Well, it's a good spot, to be honest with you, and what you guys have done, it looks fabulous. That being said, I've kind of, I guess, walked through the concept, right? I know because maybe some people get confused with the food truck aspect and then the restaurant aspect as well. I mean, is it something you walk to the food truck, order it, and if you want to go inside and sit down, you can, you wait for, maybe some people are just kind of curious of how everything works.
I think thanks for asking that, because we still get that now, right? I have people drive by a restaurant for the last 3 months to go to a food truck, but we're closed for the winter in the food truck park, right? So it's, like I said, we are the first in America to combine. Now you have some restaurants, take like Sugar Fire, they have a food truck or two, right? And that they project their barbecue brand. But so start with this. Go back to no one in the same house ever seems to agree on the same food. So we said, let's combine multiple brands. We bought the Fine Swine brand because it was quite prolific. So we wanted to start with something. So barbecue was our core. We added multiple brands from taco to smash burger to a chef's delight. So we wanted to create if you think about it, it's like a food court under one roof. So when I have a brick and mortar restaurant, you can do that. To make it different, we then wanted to think of food trucks not only as mobile feeding stations, as ways to go out and impact the community. They also are great marketing and branding. Right? It's a big billboard that drives around with your brand on it, powered by Soulcial Kitchen. So what we wanted to do was combine a physical infrastructure for the reasons that I can leverage all of it to make the food trucks more effective and to create a different experience. So we have a physical restaurant with multiple brands to delight those who can't agree on food. All of them have a manifestation in the form of a food truck because lots of people like that. Actually, COVID has exploded that business.
Right.
It's $1.2 billion and growing in America right now. Fastest growing segment of the restaurant industry, while traditional brick and mortar really continues to diminish.
Right.
But then we realized people are hungry for experiences and they want to be able to connect. And COVID really showed us that. So we said, now what if we could take a brick and mortar in their food trucks and wrap it in a space that's inviting? So we opened up the food truck park where on Friday and Saturday, Friday nights, starting the 1st of April, we open our food truck season. Food Truck Friday will last 32 weeks with live music. We have a bar out there, a stage out there, so you draw people out for an event. 6 days a week, our food trucks are open during food truck season, one or more of them any given day. We'll invite other food trucks to come in over time to help other small businesses. And so what you get, you add a dog park element, and we've purchased another building to add a dessert element. So now you have crepes, coffee. So what we've created is a campus to connect people around any way you want to socialize with food at the center. And that's what makes it unique, is the combination of these various elements, one co-located, but then the ability to pop out into the community multiple times a day with our food trucks and impact people. So a lot of people just want to go hang out in the park. They can pop out, get something, one of the food trucks, and never wander their way into the restaurant. However, 4 months out of the year, we don't have that luxury, as we've all recognized. Yeah. And so that's why you need the brick and mortar to be able to continue to do things and connect people.
So basically, if people want to go now, it's the brick and mortar. They go to the restaurant, correct? Except for coming up in April on the weekends when you have the food truck park, hopping, I guess, if you will.
Yep, starting 1 April, they'll be able to go out. They can hit the food truck park, and one or more food trucks will be open every day from 1 April until 11 November.
Which I think that's important. You set yourself up with the outside dynamic of the food truck park that if something happens again, right, down the line, whether it be this comes back in another variant or something similar does, you're not shut down. Maybe certain months of the year, but you have that ability, I guess, now to still continue because it is outdoors. It is spread out a little bit more. You got the food trucks to kind of venture off.
That's exactly why we did it. If you think about it, and it's going to take a while, although everyone's, I believe we're going to see kind of like a national Mardi Gras that's going to last for the rest of the year because everyone's got some pent-up demand, right, to do stuff, whatever it is, go on cruises, go on. So with that in mind, we also look at Ukraine. We live in such an uncertain world that in order to mitigate risk, hospitality, it's the worst time in the history of hospitality for a lot of reasons. You can kind of, fuel and commodities and people. So you really got to build a lot of innate flexibility into any platform. We could be talking about any business right now. We're just happen to be talking about food, right? So you're right. We want to mitigate what we don't know, which is none of us know what the future is going to bring. There is also a whole group of people who are going to take a long time to, or may never fully go back to an immersive inside environment. So what you have to do is give them a chance to experience programming inside, outside, bring a furry friend, bring your kids, have fun. And the beauty of co-locating these, right, is what is really unique here, just by virtue of how everything's worked out on that corner, is you can park once now and bring a book and spend the day, everything from eating to ultimately on a Friday listening to tunes to working your way to the ice cream parlor, meeting friends in between. That's what's needed today, right? Is anything that's one-dimensional is in trouble. Any business model that's one-dimensional is in trouble.
Absolutely. John, what as far as entertainment out there, what kind of some local flavor for musicians, or you got certain groups lined up? What can people expect on Friday and Saturday nights out there?
Yeah, we have a lot. I mean, you see a lot of the circuit that's already working its way downtown Belleville. We've gone local, so we stretched across the river too. We'll bring some bands up from St. Louis, but they're all designed. Everything with Soulcial Kitchen, from the entrepreneurs who are training inside our restaurant, which some of these ideally will spur on to become their own food truck entrepreneurs. They'll have their own food trucks. We've de-risked it by training them. We give them a platform to leverage. Other food trucks, now we bring in local bands. We also are working with small local businesses who leverage our kitchen, who are trying to make their sauces, their unique items, right? We want to become essentially an incubator for small business hospitality. We've lost a couple million small businesses in America with COVID. That's why it was so key for us to create a platform that we can leverage things around one area, hospitality, a lot of it with wheels on it, some without, to become a way to spur growth in the community, to create greater connection in the community, and to make a positive impact in the community. That's why I go back to, we should never, the idea of mission, the last part I'll mention here is, I believe that people really want more than anything. COVID showed us how fragile life is the idea of being connected to something bigger than ourselves. So the reason that we use the food trucks to go out and serve the hungry and involve people in it and help train young generation to become food truck entrepreneurs is people want to know they're going to deploy their money and their time in a place that makes a difference. And they feel it there. You walk in the Soulcial Kitchen today, you'll see pictures mounted in different places of all the food trucks we've sent into communities on behalf, of the folks who participated in the community, and served 100 free meals to everything from the projects of East St. Louis, right, to Madison, to at-risk women's shelters. We're now working with the mayor of Belleville. We gave her Love Thy Neighbor Truck 5. Okay. So, again, the idea of mission, I think, is that's what kind of binds all this together.
Yeah, I think that's a very strong component. And I commend you on that part to it. And I think also what you're saying is, people are itching to get back out to the social settings. no matter what it be. I mean, you can just look at, Chili Cook-Off that was downtown Belleville earlier this year, past year, just the people clamoring. Now you had winter come and, of course we had the variants coming through, but it was cold, it's been snowy, and now I feel like people are just really itching at the skin just to get out and get outside with people in a large setting, if they feel comfortable and be around other people. It's something that people have missed for the last 2 years.
100%. We saw it last week, right? So we all got a peak in the spring. Mm-hmm. And just the way we started, you started by saying, as it gets warmer and the sun stays out longer, right? I bet you things are picking up. It was our busiest week by far. That's awesome. Last week. Okay, and it was because they could sit outside on the patio. You see the umbrellas are back out. When we opened the park, the thing about it, we've created a 3-acre campus that's bound. It's open carry, so you can carry food, you can have a drink, you can do all that within it. So it allows people to be social and just get out in nature. We've been confined. You cannot confine the human spirit for too long, right? And we have been for 2 years. That's why I said we're about to have a national Mardi Gras that's going to last, I think, for the rest of the dang year once winter finally goes away, because people are done, man. They want to be around other humans. They want to have good food, and they just want to go laugh. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. But they don't want to be in their house behind a screen all day long anymore. I know that for a fact.
No, not at all.
I think everyone's done with that.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Well, I do want to hit on, of course, everybody that's driven by has seen the Space Shuttle food truck, and I think it'd be remorse if we didn't discuss that. So kind of tell us a little bit about that and the uniqueness that it is and kind of how that came to be.
Yeah, I'm glad you. So 1 year ago, when my wife Holly and I started talking about doing something, well, we knew it wanted to get at food insecurity because that's what we feel motivated to do something about. 2, we knew it needed to involve a food truck. That was long before Soulcial Kitchen was even in our mindset. Just a year ago, a friend, almost as a joke, that worked for us sent one of our managers sent a picture of this truck. Now, this Space Shuttle Cafe, for those who haven't seen it, you have a Goonie bird or a C-47 airplane that flew in World War II that was subsequently turned into an airliner after the war, hijacked and went to Cuba, repatriated, flew in the airlines for 30-something years, retired to a boneyard, recovered by some, probably crazy person, who had this idea of retrofitting it on a bus chassis to create, at the time, it was called the Smile Shuttle, and it did the food truck, it did the car circuit in Europe for 8 years. Came back to the States, and some guys in California who were air show enthusiasts bought it and turned it into what you see today, the Space Shuttle Cafe. Subsequently, it was bought by a gentleman in New York who took 4 years retrofitting the kitchen. Oh, my gosh. And then ultimately COVID hit and New York City would not allow him to open the food truck. It never got used. So a year ago, someone sends it kind of as a joke to us. Holly says, you ought to fly to New York to see it. I did. We fell in love with it. And we said, you know what? If we start this and we want to draw attention to our mission, go big. You have the only airplane that flew in World War II, converted to a food truck in the world, sitting again at the intersection of Swansea and Belleville in the park. And we do it because it is a one-of-a-kind story. And it's also reflective of what we're trying to create. A one-of-a-kind platform with ideally a good history we're going to create together. So it really symbolizes what we want Soulcial Kitchen to become. Something unique, something fun, and something of the history we can all be proud of.
I think it's awesome, and I saw it when you guys first brought it in, and it draws attention, which you want, right? That's very good. But my question for you is, did you guys drive that back from New York?
Oh, dude, no, we'd still be driving. No, we lowboyed that boy down to our restaurant in Arkansas and then moved it up here in December. We were waiting. Once we realized after we bought it, we were going to set it down there to figure out what we were going to do up here, and then somehow Soulcial Kitchen became what we're working on now, right? Much bigger, if you will. And so we integrated it just recently. She'll open up probably at the end of March. We'll do her first test cook. We've hired a chef for her, and she will run as a diner several days a week in the park. Most likely Thursday through Saturday. She'll run as a full diner with her own menu, which we'll announce next week. Good. All her food is independent of the 4 menus we have in the restaurant. And we take her out only on very rare occasions. Actually, our first forays in support of Belleville at Eckert's Farm on the 30th of April. We're going to go out for that event. We're supporting our friends who are at the grand opening of the new Shiloh Offenberg group, and they're on the 20th of July. And we're in discussions with NASCAR about potentially highlighting her at the upcoming race.
That'd be awesome.
Nice.
So she's legit.
Yeah, she is legit. You can't miss her, like I said.
And then you wrap the other guys around it, That's why I said every day, starting the 1st of April, there'll be at least one food truck open for you to hit if you want to just hit a truck, kick back in the park, and not work your way into the restaurant.
Yep. John, one thing I was going to touch on, it made me think of it when you're talking about hiring the chef there for that for the shuttle there. How has been, the restaurant industry, more and more people not going back to work, resigning, all that. Has it been different because of your uniqueness with the food truck and the education for people? How's that been trying to find help or work with your spot there?
No, that's a really good question. It's still a challenge given all the dimensions. You mentioned in the beginning that this is a multi-dimensional platform, so it takes a little while. But once people get there and kind of go, ooh, I get it. So in this case, it demands not necessarily a whole lot of people, but definitely the right people.
Yeah.
We've been very fortunate that we still have people their initial cadre that we started bringing on at the end of June, a good number of them still with us. We hire a lot more experienced people, and so we've been very particular. We have, like everybody, the phenomenon of getting X amount of people to respond and, ultimately who you can really interact with, probably the single most fascinating aspect of this entire thing. One we underestimated. The one thing, and you hit on it, that has made the difference, especially those that have joined and stayed, or people who have left full-time, great-paying jobs, actually, to come join us. Jobs that, if you would be considered long-term, established, super stable. Vice's kind of big startup that we got going on, right?
Yeah.
Has been the mission aspect. The ability, either two things. The mission's one, and the other is there's a lot of people who want to operate food trucks. You know what I mean? And I mean, everyone does, but two, they don't necessarily know how to do it, and two, they don't have access to the capital to do it, right? So we give people a foray into it, and it's allowing some people who are pursuing their dream. And so that's been very helpful that we have two things that are unique, very mission overt, and two, the only ones that are doing this kind of food truck training and opportunity to move them into business one day in the future. So it's made a difference. But it is still a crazy hiring industry, I feel, for everybody we talk to.
Yeah.
Fascinating, actually, and almost head exploding.
And head pounding as well at times. It's,
man.
I think it's important where you said, you guys are the only one doing it where you own all the trucks and you're helping create, people the opportunities to take that chance, learn it, and eventually go off on their own. I've been over to 9 Mile Garden over in St. Louis, their food truck park, which is good. And it's a good atmosphere, and I'm sure this is going to be very similar. But those aren't owned by them. Those are all individual food trucks that they have come each week. And I feel like, and no offense to them over there, but I feel like you don't know how the quality is going to be from food truck to food truck. Whereas when you control them all, I'm sure you personally have a very good idea of how they're going to be and how you want them to be. So I feel like the quality, like I said, it's not like I've had ever anything bad over there, but the quality overall is more rounded, I guess.
Yeah, no, so they were smart in that you have a combination of developers and Brian, who's a hospitality guy. They just created a platform around their bar, and they don't have any risk because no one wants to have a kitchen anymore. One, it's impossible to hire good cooks, right. And two, it's just really expensive. So it's very smart, and a lot of people do that around the country, right. So it's not unique in that standpoint. But you get a lot of variability, to your point. And so if we're trying to create a consistent experience around great food, the right atmosphere, and also creating brands and extending those brands to the community, we believe establishing our first round and controlling our food truck from the way people are, because we hire them, we train them, and that food quality will not vary from the food truck to the restaurant. And that's something people really notice is how great our food is. We've got very legitimate chefs, distinguished graduates from the Culinary Institute of America, that kind of quality. And you're right, because when you invite a food truck, and you've got 20 or 30 of them rolling over a month, you have a certain amount of variability.
Right.
that constantly is being introduced into your model. Now, we're only going to potentially add one more food truck of our own when we open the ice cream parlor crepe shop, right? So that's the design was always to take it to about 6. Okay. Then what we'll do is we will move some of our graduated people, those who stay with us and graduate the program. We will then look to move them into business with a food truck and likely assist them with that. So that makes the barriers to their getting into it much lower now, right? And so any scaling of further, because that way we can create a food truck ecosystem this side of the water that we think is higher quality, has a greater chance of success, and the more successful they are as small business owners, the more tax dollars that go in and the more delightful experience. So that's the advantage of us having, I would say, a fairly undeveloped food truck ecosystem this side of the water.
I agree. Well, look, John, we don't want to take too much of your time, and we appreciate you coming on. I do have a strong feeling here that in the next month or so, if you drive by Soulcial Kitchen on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday evening, it's just going to be a flock of people, which is awesome, and I look forward to it as well, too.
Well, I'm super grateful for y'all letting me come. You know, we love telling the story. More importantly, we love to see people out there. We ask, get involved in the mission, just learn about the mission. And we're making a huge difference. So I'll leave by saying in just the 3.5 months since we've opened the actual physical and turned on the Love Thy Neighbor program, where people buy a token, deposit it at the bar in this lantern we have. Every 100 tokens we collect, we launch a free food truck and 100 meals into a community. We are already about to finish Love Thy Neighbor 6.
That's awesome.
So if anybody's confused about the power of mission, just come check it out, because we're seeing it in awesome community teammates like yourselves going down there to make a difference every day.
John, is there anywhere, social media, online, that people can go out there and read about that with the mission side of it?
Absolutely. You can go to soulcialkitchen.com. It has everything about the currency of caring. If you order food, you can order, very easy to order all the restaurant, all our various things for takeout, delivery, and you can even order the currency of caring right there online when you hit the website. Awesome. So we want to make it easy.
Perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that got out.
Yeah. No, it's a great mission.
The Soulcialkitchen.com.
It's a great mission. We wish you the most success. We hope it's an awesome year for you guys and for everybody else to get out and experience it too. So again, we thank you for coming on, and we look forward to a successful spring, seeing you down there.
Amen. God bless you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
All right, cheers.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Growing Belleville Through Community Chats podcast. Please remember to follow and subscribe to this podcast and share with your friends and community leaders. For additional information from this podcast, please reach out to the Greater Belleville Chamber of Commerce.